Guys, what is up? Hey, it's been a while since I made a video, and normally when I make videos, I mean, although I'd like to build my channel, I'm not, it's not all about that. Usually when I make a video, it is because something is on my mind, and something that I need to get out. I'm a very outspoken person. Some people can handle that, some people can't. Some people like it, some people don't. But when it comes to things like bodybuilding, I'm very outspoken only because I grew up very old school in the way of my training. And last week I told you that I was going to go ahead and make a video on work ethic when it comes to bodybuilding training, prep, diet, for the new guys, for the new competitors, what to expect in your first show or second show, and what not to expect sometimes. First of all, I want to preface this with saying, I train in about 3 or 4 different gyms. My main one being Gold's in Venice, and but I'm going to go ahead and cover basically just what I see out there. And it's just not just what I see. I see, a lot of the older guys, they'll talk about that too. Dave Palumbo, he's brought it up on his shows a couple of times. And and the thing is though is that I don't know where it started. I don't know how it evolved. I have a pretty good idea. But work ethic and training intensity and training hard in the gym just doesn't seem like it's there anymore. And because sometimes I see competitors, and just not regular competitors, but pros alike, it just really isn't there. The intensity isn't there, and I don't understand that. And it could be because, maybe because the gear that they're taking, they feel like they don't have to train as hard. But I'm going to tell you right now, the number one thing, when you're in the gym, put your fucking phones away, right? If you want to take a video or have somebody take a video of you while you're training, that's great. But don't take a fucking selfie in between every one of your sets, right? Especially if you're getting ready for a show, because it takes time. You should be 100% into your training, not worried about what you're going to be putting out on social media. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think the phone, is the number one thing that has killed the intensity in bodybuilding, right? Because everybody is so into themselves and so worried about what they're going to put out on social media that really detracts from what they're supposed to do, or from their end result. And training makes a lot of difference. I mean, the training intensity, training light makes a difference. Training heavy makes a difference in the way your physique is going to come out. Whether it's the drugs, whether it's the food, the diet, right? The training has to be there. And I don't think a lot of the newer people, younger generation, understand that. And it's frustrating because you see all these people turning pro or whatever, and that's great. That's another thing too, man. They're giving out pro cards like it's fucking candy. Why? Because it's a revenue stream. You see it in bikini, you see it in figure, you see it in classic physique, you see it in physique, right? But the hardest place to get a pro card is in the bodybuilding sector. And I'm not taking anything away from any of those guys. I'm really not. But let's get back to my point at hand as far as intensity. I see guys in the gym, and they must think that, because I train with my wife, and my wife is very old school. She's a former IFBB pro, and they both see us in their training, and this is what we do, honest to God. We come in, we put our headphones on, right? We put our earbuds in, put our music or podcasts or whatever we're listening to in, and we know our routine. and we know how long to take in between sets. Okay, and that's the biggest thing. It's not how much weight you use, although, you know, if you can use weight, if you can use a lot of weight, that's great, right? That's part of it. Unfortunately, I can't. I've got severe tendonitis in one arm, and I've got a slap tear in the other shoulder. But you know what? My training intensity is still there, right? So I look at the clock. When I'm done with my set, I'm looking at the clock, right? 60 to 90 seconds. If I go beyond 90 seconds, I know I'm taking too long, right? If I'm training with somebody, whether it be with my wife or a partner, or a pro, right? I don't care who it is. I don't care which pro it is that trains. It's like, you get your set done, let the other person get his set in, they get right back fucking to it. Don't bullshit in between sets, right? If you're doing legs, the time that it should take you to get in one set and back into the other and back into another set is the time that you wrap and unwrap your knees, and that's it, right? And it's funny because last week when I was at the Muscle Beach Muscle Classic, a bodybuilding classic, and it's a great show, and I was fortunate enough to have the booth next to Lee Priest. And I never call people out or anything like that, but me and Lee, we talked all day. And it just so happened that Tony Huge was in that show. And the guy's got a good physique, right? But I'm going to tell you right now, Generation Iron came over, did an interview with Tony, with Lee, and I'm sitting in the foreground and I'm listening to the interview. And Tony's interviewing Lee, and he's saying that we do. And I'm paraphrasing here, that we do this stuff, on video to, to help people and stuff like that. So what to do and what not to do, and and we're just and this was the big thing, right? To what to take, what not to take, what works, what doesn't work, what fucks us up, what doesn't fuck us up, right? And he basically said, he said it. We want to try and make it easier for people in the gym to train not as hard. And me and Lee, we kind of looked at each other and just said, what? And that struck a nerve. That struck a nerve with Lee, but it particularly struck a nerve with me, right? Lee, I know, has always trained hard. He's old school. I've always trained hard. All the way up until the day of my show. I trained all the way. I trained fucking hard. Even when I was in depletion stage, I trained as hard as I fucking could. I paid attention to the clock and I got it done. I trained as heavy as I could, and it was intense. Earbuds in, no distractions, no fucking phones in my face, no selfies. If I did one, it was before the workout saying, hey, this is what we're going to do today. I'll catch you at the end. And that was it, right? Or it'd be my wife filming my workouts, right? But there was nothing in between. There was no bullshit in between. So when Tony Huge said that, it threw me for a loop. And I'm going, you've got to be kidding me. And that kind of proved to me maybe that's where this whole thing is coming from. Maybe people are relying too much on drugs instead of their training to get them through whatever they got to do, to get them through the contest, to get them through, their training or whatever it is. Not realizing that, yeah, the gear's important. It's there's no doubt about that. You can't compete without it. You just can't. But what it told me was people don't want to fucking work hard. And in this business, if you want to really change your physique, you can take all the shit in the world. If your training, right, isn't on point, and you're not training with the intensity that you should, or that you could be, it's going to show in your physique. There's just no two ways about it. But look, we get in this argument all the time on the boards, on on gossip boards and stuff like that, and everybody thinks it's all drugs, and I don't know if I expect these people to understand because they've never competed before, or maybe they just don't train hard enough to understand. But I'm going to tell you right now, you cannot have one without the other. You can't have your diet if you don't have any food in your diet. If your diet isn't right, all the drugs in the world aren't going to matter. It's just not. Same with your training. Go out and train half-assed, right, for 18 weeks. Get on all the shit you want and train, and tell me if your physique is going to be that of the person who, of course, took the gear, had his diet on point, trained his ass off, and you know who's going to win every fucking time, unless you're some kind of a genetic freak who doesn't need to train, which there really is nobody out there that could do that, and the guy's going to put in the work. That's just the bottom line. So when I see these guys in here, and you know what, it's basically in most contests that I see, that I've been seeing, it's an even playing field. You might have one guy that's training harder than the other, but the intensity isn't there. And I see it. I see it every day. I see it at Gold's. I see it at the other gyms I train at, which is the Y, UFC gym, wherever, right? And I'm watching these competitors, and I'm just going, you're not even breaking a sweat. What are you doing? You're not even training hard. What are you doing? And it shows. It shows in their physique, and it shows in their placing on where they're going to be at. That's my rant with that. Now, let's get on to prep, and let's get on to the new people that expect something other than what they, let me see if I can word this right. They expect other than what they can get, or what they've got. And I'm going to say this right now. You want to do a contest, that's great. You're a big guy in the gym. You're a well-shaped girl, female in the gym. Let's take the guys. Let's take the guys, for example. There are a lot of people out there who are, and this makes a big difference, who are more concerned with size than they are about conditioning. Conditioning isn't there anymore, right? You're going to see a few guys who come in in great shape, who come in shredded, and those are the guys that are going to win, because basically in the smaller shows, in the state shows, in the regional shows, and the local shows, conditioning is going to win. And even in the pros now, right? You get that right combination of, size, shape, conditioning, you're going to win. But a lot of guys either come in big or they don't come in well conditioned. It's either one or the other. But let's get back to the guys who think that they are what they're really not. So you're a heavyweight, and let's say you come in at 215, 220, right? And you look good. Let's take Tony Huge, for example. Okay? At the Muscle Classic, at the Venice Beach Muscle Classic, he looked good. He did. But you know what? He took second. And you know why he took second? Now, I don't know if he was peaking for this show or not. I don't know if this was the only show that he was going to do. But the work ethic as far as dieting wasn't there. It was all relied on drugs. But let's get away from him for a minute. Let's get on to real competitors who don't give a shit about trying to create more of a following. Let's get back to the guys who think who think that they're, say for example, a heavyweight when they're in fact really a light heavyweight. Right? So, for example, there was a guy at one of the shows that I went to just in the last few weeks, and at one show he showed up. He was a heavyweight at one show, and decided at this one particular show he was going to come in as a light heavyweight. Well, he came in. I asked him, I said, what did you weigh? And he said, well, at this particular show, and I'm not going to say which show because it'd be a dead giveaway and I don't want to out the guy or whatever, right? At this show here, I was, I think he said 204 or 206 or something like that. And I said, well, what did you weigh in at this show here where he was the light heavyweight? And he said, well, I came in at right at the top at 198.5. And he goes, I was just too drawn. I lost too much muscle. Okay, one, that's bullshit. Because you're 5, 6 pounds, 7 pounds, you're not going to lose that much. You're not going to lose anything. The bottom line is you're not a heavyweight. You're a light heavyweight. And he was saying, well, I'm tall and stuff like that. He's not. He wasn't that tall. He was 5'9". Right? Put in perspective, I'm 5'6". And at my show, it came in, I think, at 195 or something like that. Okay. But at the same time, my 195 was absolutely shredded. And, I was, 25, 35, 45, 50. I was 33 years older than him. Call it muscle maturity, call it whatever you want. But the thing is, the expectations of some of these people are more than what they expect. Right? So if you're a heavyweight, right, and you come in a little bit smooth, the judges say, well, you were too smooth. Dude, you're a fucking light heavyweight. Don't be ashamed of that. Don't worry about, what weight class you're going to be in. The bottom line is come in as big and as shredded, conditioned as you can. Now let's get to the diet part of this. Let's get into the diet part of this. I was told by somebody that you should never have to feel bad on a diet. Again, this goes back to the Tony Huge thing where you think you can get away with taking more drugs instead of training hard. That's a complete fucking fallacy. Unless you're shredded all the time and you have a superior metabolism and you have the ability to get, come in shredded. Now, I'm not talking about cut. I'm talking about fucking shredded. I'm talking about diced, peeled, whatever you want to call it, right? You need to do that. People don't do that anymore. How do I know people don't do that anymore? Because the shows that I go to, and I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying everybody, I'm not making this a blanket statement. But the shows that I go to anymore, right? I don't see it. They're not willing to suffer for their diet. They're not willing to bring it in deep when it comes to training, when it comes to dieting. And it's not all drugs. I'm sorry. I don't care. I don't care who says it. I don't care. No, anybody who's smart, right, is going to tell you that it's not all 100% drugs. Because that's just complete bullshit. Your diet as a whole is right up there. And these people, some of these guys, some of these competitors just don't want to fucking do it. Now, I don't know if it's them. I don't know if it's their coaches. Okay? But there is a period, unless you can have a great prep. My prep went easy. The hardest part of my prep was the last week during depletion. And you know what? It didn't faze me that much. Hardly even faze me because I didn't complain about it. I knew what I was there for. It was my choice to go in and do this. I knew from past shows and from my upbringing, again, with over 40 years of doing this, that there is a phase in your prep you have to fucking suffer. Right? Unless you come in dialed in, most people have to go through some kind of depletion phase. People who start their prep late have to suck it up. Right? Hey, you want to fuck around and you want to take an extra couple of weeks on vacation or whatever and not start your prep on time where it should be, and and now you got to suffer for it. Okay, fine. But thing is, though, is you have to diet. You have to stick to it. You have to stick to your calorie count. You have to stick to your macro count. And they both coincide. I had one trainer. I'm listening to this guy on his YouTube channel. I'm not gonna say the guy's name, but the guy's full of shit. Okay, telling everybody else that, hey, we don't have to worry about calories as long as your macros are there. That's crap. That's bullshit. You have to come up to figure out what your BMR, right? And then you have to calculate your calories on where you're going to be at. You take your calories and then you break your macros down accordingly to your own body type. And that's just the bottom line. Okay? It's a little more complicated than that, but anyway. But thing is people sometimes have this delusion of grandeur that they think that they are something, or when they come down, they're going to be something more than what they think they're going to be. Guys who's doing his first contest in the gym, right? He might think that he's a heavyweight, but you never know. If it's your first contest, you never know. If it's your second contest, you never know until you step on that stage where you are. Where you are. You might be fucking 240 pounds in the gym, right? And you think you're going to come in as a heavyweight. But in reality, you're a light heavyweight, right? Or you're 215 pounds. Let's say you're my height, and you're 215 pounds in the off season, right? For a guy that hasn't trained, hasn't competed, and that's my height, I'm 5'6", 215 pounds is a lot of it, is big, right? He might find out when he diets down that he might be a middleweight. And that's just something people have to deal with. You have to deal with reality. And until you put everything that we've said, everything that I've said from the beginning of this video, from work ethic to training intensity, to getting your supplements right, to getting your diet right, and most of all, getting your head right, you're never going to know. All right, guys, that's about all I'm going to say. I had to get this off my mind. And if you guys enjoyed this video, subscribe the MPF channel. I'd really appreciate it. I want some feedback. If you guys have any feedback, let me know down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. Again, all right, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. All right, take care.